Hello everyone, my name is Jenny. You found my channel called Senior Perspective. Thanks for coming. Take a quick second and just hit like and subscribe. I know you don't know if you're going to like it, but I'm telling you, you're going to like it. So hit the like before we even start. Subscribe if you haven't, and make sure to always leave me a comment. I read them all. Now let's talk about Traitors, Season 2, Episode 7. Yes.
Welcome to my castle. Amidst this world of bloodshed, I am your humble narrator. So step inside, stay a while in the company of the traitor.
Okay, all you faithfuls out there who are watching this along with me, is not every single episode better than the one before? I just wish that the whole rest of this channel would embrace Traitors and watch it too.
They don't know what they're missing.
We're a small and mighty crowd, but we're enjoying it. All right, here we go. So in the recap, when the show opened up, they showed Peter looking at the note. After he read it, he looked unhappy. And that's actually what I wrote here. The very first line at the very top, Peter seems unhappy reading the note. I didn't pick that up last time, maybe because I was like kind of excited about the game getting all switched up. And I was kind of stuck on the fact that he said, I don't see how I don't get voted out if I don't do this. Did that make sense? So I really thought he was going to go that way. But we find out it didn't go that way. Peter denied the traitors.
Shut up.
Is remaining a faithful. I mean, I guess it's a noble act. You can admire him for being faithful to his friends. But he's not going to make it to the end of the season. Well, watch me eat these words. Watch his commentary not age well. Because I was convinced he'd be voted out on this one, and then they throw a twist at the end, and we'll get to that. Oh, I've got so much to say about just the whole alliances and everything. Okay, so I had written down here, Peter is more faithful than wanting to win. Admirable. Dumb, but admirable. I really don't think he's going to get very far. I don't think he's going to win. I really don't. I mean, eventually, even if he can expand his group a little bit and get one or two more in it so he has the numbers, they're all going to eventually start turning on him because everybody knows he's the mastermind. Everybody knows. I'm turning into Phaedra.
Everybody knows that.
But I have written down that Phaedra is thinking now Dan and Parvati have made some dumb decisions in this game.
My nerves are absolutely everywhere right now because last night, Parvati's decision was the worst decision ever. And just hope that it doesn't come back on me.
So now we get to the breakfast, and the first two people down there are Phaedra and Bergie.
I don't think they'll murder Kate, so I'm thinking it's going to be Peter, Trishelle, or John.
So you think they'll break up your crew?
Yep.
But y'all are like a gang.
We are. I'm not going to lie.
And they're excited to be the first two down there, and they're talking, and Bergie says who he thinks and his group and his posse of 5 think the traitors are. And he said they thought it was Dan, and they also think that it is Parvati. And after that, they have no idea. And Phaedra's like, oh, okay.
We all thought Dan in our group was a traitor. Our number 2 was all Parvati. After that, we have no idea.
Yeah.
Like, we're back to square one.
We don't need to worry yet about that. Just one at a time.
One at a time. Yeah.
I wish the shields worked for voting, not just for being killed at night. I wish a shield gave you an automatic, I'm safe this evening. Not just, if I make it past the round table, I'm safe from being killed. I'd like it if they were safe from banishment too. But just my personal opinion. And I can't remember what specifically happened in this episode that made me write that down. But at some point I just thought, oh, maybe because I thought I want Parvati to have the opportunity to win a shield to protect herself as a traitor. That could be it. So everyone shows up to breakfast. At first, everyone's shocked, and then they realized, oh, that means there's another traitor amongst us. And Bergie points out maybe somebody was offered to be the traitor and they declined it. So we don't know. Alan comes into the room, points out that everybody's in the breakfast room. And all he shares about it is, I'll let you figure out what that means. And then he goes on to say, but I do have a philosophical question for you.
If a reality star falls in the forest and there is no one there to hear it, do they make a sound? Auf Wiedersehen.
Oh no, we're running around the woods.
I thought that was really funny. So what shocked me at breakfast is we get to the end of breakfast. Peter has not revealed, and he never does throughout the whole breakfast, that the traitors tried to recruit him the night before. I would have put that out there right away because that is like so blatantly, I'm a faithful. There would be no doubt in anyone's mind that he's a faithful then. But I guess he thinks there's no doubt in anyone's mind that he's a faithful, so he doesn't need to say that. So this gives Parvati the opportunity to kind of spar and banter back and forth with him and say, oh, well, maybe you got recruited last night, Peter, right? Or who do other people think got recruited? Parvati has pretty much accepted the fact that everyone thinks she's a traitor, and so she's just trying to mix it up and maybe get people to vote for somebody else. She's not trying to convince anyone she's not a traitor anymore, really. And Peter doesn't say anything. Doesn't reveal that he got the note, and in fact even says, well, I see that you're here, Parvati, so I guess I was wrong. Maybe you're not a traitor. I just thought that was the wrong thing to say. That was going to put a major target on his back after he's been gunning for her this whole time. I was shocked. I thought this is Parvati's little in to get him out. So after breakfast, the faithful five, Peter and his 4 posse, go into the private room. And he tells them, listen, I got the note last night. They tried to recruit me as a traitor. I denied it. I just want you all to know I am convinced. I want to keep playing this game. I want to be loyal to all of you. This is proof that I'm not a traitor, which I don't think is proof he's a traitor because he would do the exact same thing if he was a traitor. I don't know. I think he looks more suspicious, but they're buying it hook, line, and sinker. And he said, Parvati's our next goal. We need to get her out next. Trishelle comes back and says, I don't think we should. I think she is somebody we have in our back pocket. She has no allies. Nobody likes her. Everyone thinks she's a traitor. There's no need to vote her out just yet. And then they recruit another traitor. We know she is one. We can take her out at any time. I think we go after Phaedra. I think the fact that Dan went after Phaedra was his way of tipping his hat and letting us all know she's a traitor too. It's what I said, right? From listening to the post interview, it sounds like I can't think of the name of it, In Mortem or something. There's a short little after shows that are like less than 10 minutes long where they interview the people that went out and like a few other people in the game. It's not what I want. I want a behind the scenes with the directors and the producers and the PAs and like the what went wrong, how did we do this, all that kind of stuff. How do we sneak people in and out? That's what I want. But at any rate, they're still interesting to watch. And in watching it, it really looks like Dan wasn't just trying to throw all the traitors under the bus. He really thought he would get Phaedra out because there was no target on her and he could plead his case. But he's used to pleading his case and then walking away, he said. He never had to plead his case and still sit around and have everybody else shoot questions back at him, and he had to defend himself. So I guess, I don't know. I will say my son, in college, I was talking to him about this channel. I'm like, you're going to throw your mom a bone and watch a channel, watch my channel. You don't even have to watch it. Can you just give me another view? Can you put it on and put it on silent and put it behind the screen that you're working on? And maybe a like too, and definitely subscribe. He's probably subscribed. But I told him he might enjoy Traitors, and he went, while I was Zooming with him, or FaceTiming, he went and looked online. He's like, oh, I know a couple of the people here. He knew the guy in Parliament, of course, because my son is brilliant. He's smarter than me. And he knew, obviously doesn't know any of the reality TV shows, because he doesn't watch any of that. But he would know the Parliament member. And he knew Dan. And I'm like, how do you know Dan? And he said that he's a very big Twitch guy now, that he does gaming on Twitch. Apparently he has a gazillion followers. He's probably making a ton of money doing it. And he probably got a lot of people through these reality TV shows to, participate and follow him. But my son just stumbled upon it, and he said it's one of the channels that he enjoys watching, and that he seems like he's a really nice guy. And my son is the one that told me the whole story about how he won the first time in Big Brother. The second time in Big Brother, he was doing really well, but his friend was in there too, and he didn't want to win again. He wanted his friend to win. So he arranged it all. So his friend won, and he came in second. So that's pretty good game playing. It's amazing that he was that good at Big Brother and this bad at Traitors.
Things that make you go,
Anywho, I digress. I don't remember what I was talking about. But the next thing in my notes here is, as these 5 are meeting in the room, Phaedra walks in. And she's like, oh, hi. And they're like, oh, we're talking for a minute. Can you just step out just for a minute? We'll talk to you in a minute. We're going to meet here. Do you mind? She's like, oh, you want me to go? And they're like, yeah. Can you just leave? It's so rude again. I don't get how they don't see that as being rude. I don't see how they can't just have like little conversations here and there and talking to each other and sharing information. Why do they have to be so blatantly obvious that we're the cool kids clique? I just hate it. So of those 5, just to remind you, it's Peter, the ringleader, along with Trishelle, Kevin, Bergie, and John. All right, so that makes up the total of 5. Phaedra leaves, and she goes back to the kitchen where a bunch of people are standing around and talking, and she lets them know, I just got kicked out of the room. I just went in there, and they're like, oh, I'm sorry, and they close the door behind her. We're talking right now, and people in the kitchen start getting riled up, and I'm like, it's about time. You guys have the numbers. Start picking off the 5 one at a time. Even if you have 2 traitors in your group, pick off all 5 of those, and then let the chips fall where they may. So back in the kitchen, there's 7 of them. We've got Phaedra, MJ, Sandra, Parvati, Kate, CT, and Sheree. Okay, so they have the numbers. I just find it funny that the Faithful 5 never included CT. Trishelle didn't convince them that CT should be part of their alliance. One, because he's the only guy not in their alliance. I mean, Dan wasn't either, so there was more than one guy before, but now there's only one guy. CT and Trishelle have been friends for like 20 years or something like that, since they did Real World together. I believe that's where they first met, not on the challenge, because they both did the challenge too. And he's sitting in the room with all the girls from Bravo, basically, and then 2 Survivor. I think they're all Bravo girls, and then 2 Survivor winners. Trishelle's other argument for voting for Phaedra is that she thinks that all the Bravo people are always going to vote together. But they've never done that. They've never been like, let's be the Bravo gang and Bravo wins at the end. It's never been that. It's just Trishelle's paranoia. I mean, she hasn't really made good choices in the past. She hasn't assumed that the correct people were the ones that needed to be targeted out. So I don't know how much weight they're going to hold into what she has to say, because she's been wrong so much. But anyway, I said that they were Bravo people and 2 survivors, and then CT too. So we have a challenge, 2 survivors, and then 4 Bravo people. There's only 4 Bravo people. They don't even have majority. So I don't even know what Trishelle's talking about. Anyway, so this is the first time the 7 of them are like, I don't really like how this is going down, finally. And MJ, who is friendly with the 5 of them in there, and at times has had conversations in groups with different ones of them, said, I'm going to go. So she goes down the hall and she opens the door and she walks in, and they're like, oh, sorry, MJ, can you just give us a couple minutes? We'll be with you in just a minute. And she's like, well, what are you talking about? Are you strategizing? What's going on here? And Kevin's like, yes, and it's good, but we'll tell you later. And Peter's like, shh. Kevin, hush, hush. And she's like, but I don't want to be left out. And they're like, no, we're not going to leave you out. We're going to tell you everything that's going on, but you have to go now. So she got kicked out. So back to the kitchen she goes and shares this. And Sandra finally sits there. I don't know why she couldn't just say it, why she had to use a visual, but maybe people are even less bright than I'm giving them credit for. But she takes pool balls to show there are 5 in this group. There are 7 of us.
1 + 1 = 2?
Well, math is hard.
Even if we take out the 2 traitors, this is how the numbers are going to go. And if they pick one of us off, then they're going to go. So she explained the whole thing and how the strategy should be get these 5 out. Brilliant. And then they agreed the only way this is going to work is if they all vote together. They all have to vote together, and they all decided they're all voting for Peter because they don't like how he's the ringleader of this secret society of the Faithful 5. Great idea. Although when they shoot the camera over to CT, as everyone's agreeing, yeah, we're going to vote for Peter, he doesn't respond. He just sits there and stares. So instantly I was nervous. I'm like, he's not agreeing with these women. Why are they not, again, the game strategy and the social game? I don't know. Like, they just don't get it sometimes. Clearly, the one guy who's not part of the kind of reality TV show that the majority of them are, is going to feel left out, right? So you're going to try to go above and beyond. 1, that he's not part of your normal posse. 2, he's the only guy in the room. And he's a guy's guy, too. It's not like he's a guy like Dan. He's a guy's guy. And so he doesn't seem like the kind of guy that wants to sit there and chit-chat with housewives. I don't see them reaching out to him and going, CT, what do you think? This was sort of like, this is what we're all deciding. Yeah, okay, we're all doing it. And there's not everybody give feedback. What's good or what's bad about this? What do you think? CT, how are you feeling about it? That never happened. And that bothers me a little bit. And it concerns me in terms of him staying on their side. And we'll get to that later. Now we get to the challenge. There's a possible $25,000 on the line for this challenge. Another fun challenge to watch. I'm telling you, who's going to watch a random episode 5 if they're not watching the rest of them? But if somebody stumbles upon this and they don't know what's going on and they haven't watched the rest of the episodes, the challenges are just good and fun. They are not the boring Survivor challenges that are just getting recycled over and over again. They don't make you hold your breath. I hate Survivor because these people are completely malnourished and not eating anything and losing all their muscle mass. And then they're forcing them to walk on balance beams. If they fall off, they could hurt themselves. I'm always convinced somebody's going to get really hurt. They have to go blindfolded through a thing and then they bump their head really hard into it and then they have to get the medics. That's not enjoyable to me. And I'm guessing the challenge is that way. And I know a lot of people love those shows. So I'm not saying you're wrong for not liking them. I just don't like them. My idea of entertainment is not being anxious and nervous and scared somebody's going to get hurt. I don't like it when people get hurt. I don't like it at all. I'm your typical middle-aged housewife who loves 20, 60 minutes, 48 hours, Dateline. I watch them all. But if one of those episodes, which basically are all murders and solving them, which is probably why I like Traitors, which is why I don't understand why the rest of my channel, I think you're all women. Come on. That's the demographic for these murder shows that are on TV, is 30 to 50-year-old women, housewives. Anyway, I know that from the days my daughter was back doing ratings at CBS. So, and at the talent agency. The bottom line is I don't enjoy violence at all. If any of those shows show torturing or they show the murder, but it's more involved than just bang, you're dead, I can't watch them. I don't like it. And these reality shows with these physical challenges, I'm always convinced somebody's going to get hurt. Okay. Not that you care, but I just want to explain why I don't watch some of the other reality shows that a lot of you do. All right, so they have to split up into teams of 2. They're each going to take their own paths. They're going to go through the woods. And when they get to the other side, the first team over there gets a shield. If both of them have made it, they both get shields. And this is how it goes. So they're going through the woods. They get to their first question sign. It has, is this the answer or is this the answer? Right or left? And then they take that path. Along that path, they'll see a scroll on the ground. They pick up the scroll, open it up, and it will tell them if they're right or wrong. If they're wrong, the person who touched the scroll and picked it up is out. of the game. The other person takes the money and they go back and they go down the other path, and then they have to complete the rest of the journey by themselves. What I didn't realize until it started is the scroll that says you did the wrong thing also includes a booby trap. So the teams go. Trichelle's convinced that her and Peters should take the bag with the most amount of money because, you know, they're obviously going to win and get all the way to the end and probably get the shields as well. And I'm thinking they probably will too. They look like the two, you know, most physically fit people that are here. They're probably going to be first to the end. Great. Question number 1 was, what is the name of the force that we're in? Which Alan Cumming, I love to put an S at the end of his name, but it doesn't have an S. Alan Cumming mentioned when he was talking about the challenge in front of everybody. So they show Peter and Trichelle get to the sign first in their neck of the woods, and they're like, what is the name of the wood? And the names were transversed. I think I wrote it down. It's either Darroch McDorman Woods or it's the Dorman McDarroch Woods. So they're very similar. It's not like they gave two completely different things. Which one was it? They didn't really know. Peter's like, let's just go left. So they went left. You get to the sign that says one person has to stop here, the other person goes forward to get the scroll. He's like, I'll go do it. He starts walking. There's a huge bed of leaves. He starts walking through the leaves, and before you know it, down into a pool of water full of mud. He's completely covered in mud. And of course, the scroll also says, sorry, you chose wrong.
Oh my God. All right, I'll go. You got it?
Yeah, got the scroll.
Okay.
Oh, shit.
Shit!
Oh my God.
Oh.
Welcome to the woods of Darroch McDorman.
So he was out immediately, and I'm thrilled. He now doesn't have a shield. Maybe Trichelle gets a shield, who cares? But Peter can now get, why can't I think of the word? I want to say abandoned, dismembered. No, he gets voted out. What's the word? Anyway, banishment. Banishment. Whew, elderly brain here. He is not safe from banishment, so these 7 in the kitchen can vote him out tonight. All right. If everything just went the way it looks like at the beginning of the show, right? Anyway, we'll get there. All right, so Trichelle has to hike back, go take the other path, and continue on doing it herself. All right, I wrote down how people did along the way. Oh, I forgot to mention, one of the teams is Phaedra and CT, and they grabbed the $500 bag, which had the least amount of money in it. Trichelle and Peter's bag, I believe, had $7,000 in it, so theirs only had $500, and this is Phaedra's reason why.
You guys could do more than 500.
That was the smallest amount, so if we lose, no skin off anybody's back. What can you really do with $500? You can't buy a good pair of shoes with that.
I'm sorry if most of the video clips that I put in this are Phaedra. It's just because she cracks me up. And I love to laugh. The next couple that gets to the sign is CT and Phaedra. They choose correctly. They go on the right path, and it's correct, and they continue on. MJ and Kate choose to go on the right path. They are correct. They move on. Sandra and Kevin choose correctly. They choose the right path. They continue on. Bergie and Sheree get to the sign, and Bergie says, I'm pretty sure it's the left one. I'm pretty sure it's left. So they went left. Bergie went to retrieve. He's the one that got stuck in the mud puddle, and Sheree had to continue on without him. Question number 2 was, look at the symbol. What's missing in the center of it? And it had a sun and it had a moon. Well, if you look at the symbol, you realize that it is the symbol that's on the huge round table that they sit at night when they do their voting for banishment. So what goes in the center of it? Is it a sun or is it a moon? Phaedra's convinced it's a sun because the whole thing looks like a sun. It does. But to me, it's like a sun and a sun. I feel like the moon would complement it. But at any rate, they choose sun. They are incorrect, and we find out because CJ gets pulled up in a net trap. I'm sure there's a name for him. I can't think of what it would be called. But anyway, like you catch a bear or you want to catch something alive. So it catches them up when they get caught in these things because there's so many leaves covering these traps on the ground that when they get caught up in the thing, all you see is a whole thing of leaves and then voices coming out of it.
Do I have to stop back there?
No, I got it.
Okay, Lord.
I think it would be a good... Oh!
Oh my God!
I think it was the moon!
Poor CT. I mean, he didn't know the right way. He even asked Phaedra, are you sure? She's like, pretty sure, yeah. And so he's out of the game. She continues on by herself. We have Kate and MJ. They choose the sun too. MJ's the one that goes to grab it. Whoop! Up in the net. MJ's gone. John and Parvati chose the moon correctly. They continue on. Kevin and Sandra choose the moon correctly. They continue on. They get to question number 3. What is the Latin phrase that's written in the kitchen? And they have the 2 Latin phrases and they have it transcribed down below. And below it, it says, keep your enemies close. And the other Latin phrase says, keep your friends close. Well, you're in a hurry as you're making these decisions too, because you want to be the first one to complete it and get to the end because you get the shield, right? The first instinct, which many people took, which I took too, is like, oh, keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer. It's keep your enemies close. But really, when you think of the phrase, it's keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer. And these 2 phrases were keep your enemies close, keep your friends close. So the answer was really keep your friends close. So this is where I believe Trishelle chose wrong. She goes up in a net. Kate chose, she was by herself. She chose enemies. She goes up in a net. And she didn't seem to care. She's like, this is like a nice little cocoon. I'm in a hammock now. I'm okay. I'm not getting dirty. I'm fine being up here. Phaedra chooses enemies. She goes up in the net, of which 2 seconds later, she's like, okay, you guys have to get me out of here. She's yelling at production. I'm done with this. Parvati and John choose correct again and continue on. Kevin and Sandra choose correct again and they continue on. We get to the 4th and final question. Which portrait wall is correct? And so there's the portrait wall that's in the breakfast room that every time that has all the headshots of everybody in the game. They're all in the same spots and there's a big red X on top of them every time somebody gets eliminated, but they're all still on the wall in the same order. Well, they took a section of it out. It wasn't the whole wall. It was a section of it. And a couple of the faces were twisted in that section, mixed. And so you had to pick which one was correct. Parvati noticed that the person next to John in the picture was different in both of them. So she's like, on the wall, who's the person that's on the right side of you? He's like, I don't know. It's not very observant. Not very observant at all. I think Parvati answered most of the questions correct. I think she's the most observant of the 2 of them. But he's a sweet, nice guy. In the end, both the teams chose correct. They get to the end. They don't know who got there first. Alan brings them all together, announces that the person who completed it in the shortest amount of time was Sandra and Kevin. They get shields. There is no target on either of their backs. It is like the biggest waste of shields. Again. Alan says to them all, congrats to everybody, and oh, be prepared. There's a surprise for you later. And he leaves. They're back at the castle later on in the evening, probably after showers and dinner, and CT is talking with Peter. And he shares with Peter that Peter's on the chopping block, that his name is out there to be voted for. I knew we couldn't trust CT. CT's traitor amongst his own people, even though he's not an official traitor. Now, in his talking head, he admits he's still leaning towards voting for Peter, but he's open to whatever Peter has to say. And he shares with Peter that people are thinking about voting for you. Peter had no idea. It's Dan in Peter's body. Honestly, out of all the things that he's done, one, his head was on the chopping block. He should have been voted out the night before. He wasn't. There might possibly somebody converted to be a traitor. He's never denied that to the other 7, only to his faithful 5, which is still questionable. He yells out at breakfast to Parvati, well, I guess you're not a traitor because you're still here. Talk about completely changing up his game. Very suspect. Makes him look like he just got recruited as a traitor. And he keeps kicking people out of the room while he's talking to his 4 friends all the time. And he had no idea
I have absolutely no idea what's going on.
that anybody was onto him or thought we should get him out. He's being a little shifty and shady. Honestly, these men in the game, this is news to him. I guess he assumed his faithful five would have this meeting, they would make the decision, and then they would just tell CT and MJ and whoever else they think they're friends with how to vote. That they're just the counsel and brain trust of the faithfuls. Don't like it. So Peter thinks, well, now I need to start working and talking to other people. And he takes Phaedra and Parvati aside. Phaedra doesn't like it at all. She's like, I don't like what's going on here. We've never talked before, really. I don't know what's happening. And he's like, oh, let's talk together. At the point that he says, maybe we can all work together, Phaedra just gets up and she's like, okay, I'm uncomfortable with all of this. I'm going to go. Parvati stays. She, of course, is going to listen to him and hear him out, simply because she knows that she's on the chopping block and she doesn't have a shield and she may be voted out, so she's going to listen to what he has to say. But I'm sure the two of them just danced around in circles and they didn't show the rest of the conversation. Before the round table in the evening, Alan Cumming comes in and says, everybody, get your coat and your boots on. We're going out to the woods. And he adds, it's going to be a deadly outing. So there were suspicions that the round table would be there and that they're actually going to do the round table but do it outside in the woods this time or whatnot. But there wasn't. There was just a big fire pit and they all stood around it. And Alan said, basically, to summarize, we're giving out a whole lot more shields here right now. 5 more shields. There's going to be 5 people left who are not protected because 2 people already had shields. Those 2 people that had shields could decide who did they want to save together. So the 2 of them talked together, agreed on who they were going to save, and they had to light the torch of the person in the circle who were also going to be saved from being murdered that evening. Oh, and I don't know if I mentioned, there was no banishment. There was no voting, no banishment, no way to get out Peter anyway.
We want him banished!
He wins again. I almost feel like the producers are just rigging this game to get Peter to go further along. It's really bugging me. I'm like, what of all times now you're going to have this so that he can go on? Because clearly he was going to get voted out. So I'm thinking, how are the 2 of them going to decide who to give it to? Because if you give it to one of the 7 first, they're going to give it to each other in the 7, leaving the 5 out so that they can get rid of Peter. Because you can't give it to one of the 5, or they'll give it to Peter.
True.
Because everyone knows Peter's on the chopping block. So I'm thinking, how are they going to decide between the 2 of them? Well, shockingly, they decided together that Sheree would be saved. So out of left field, it's one of the 7, not one of the 5. And I'm thinking, all right. So now Sheree can just give it to one of the other 7. They can go around, they can save 5 of them, and then they're going to vote out Peter. Because you can't give it to one of Peter's 4 friends or they're going to give it to him, right? So this is how it goes down. Sheree is saved. Sheree goes and saves Phaedra. Phaedra has an emotional moment. She cries. Her and Sheree, over the years, they've known each other for like 20 years. They both live in Atlanta. They were both on Real Housewives of Atlanta. Sheree actually went back on it for a while. She may be on it again now. I don't know. I haven't watched it in about 4 or 5 years. But they had like this love-hate relationship between. Sometimes they were best of friends and sometimes they were worst of friends. So Phaedra truly got emotional at this time because Sheree gave it to her, which was a sign of friendship, and she just felt like it was a full circle moment and she had a hard time pulling herself together. Now, again, to other people, that's a target on the back. The 2 of them aren't going to vote each other out. You know, like this whole thing was like messing up the game. The game was finally going the way I wanted it to go. And this is going to mess everything up. Now, before each person goes, anybody in the circle can plead their case to whoever has the fire, because now it's just one person at a time. And remember, the 2 people who already had shields are not even in this, the 2 that won the challenge. So Parvati in the talking head said that she'd never pleaded her case to Phaedra because she just knew Phaedra was going to give her the fire and save her. I think, no, that would make it look blatantly obvious that she was working with the traitor. Why would you save the traitor? Everybody wants to get the traitor out. It would be the dumbest move in the world for her to give it to. I don't think Parvati would have given it to Phaedra. So for Parvati to expect Phaedra to give it to her, I think was unfair. It would have been terrible gameplay on Phaedra's part, because there's already a target on her back, not as big as Parvati's, but there is one on her back because of what Dan did. So she needs to save herself and make herself look like a faithful and separate herself from Parvati. The last thing she should do is save Parvati in this situation.
True, yeah.
And Parvati doesn't need saving anyway. This is all about who the traitors are going to kill at night. Parvati's safe. There's no round table vote. So there's absolutely no reason that Phaedra should have connected herself as like a friend or even acquaintance of Parvati, who everyone wants to get rid of. Anyway, I was just shocked when she was so offended. Get over it, Parvati. Do you not know the game? You got to look at it from other people's point of view too. Look at through the lens of other people, which I'm thinking a lot of people are having a difficult time with. Clearly, Dan had a difficult time looking at the game through the lens of other people. And it looks like Peter as well is doing that, in that he had no idea that people might want to vote him out. I don't know. So Phaedra chose CT. Did I even mention that? I think I'm going out of order here. I'm sitting there explaining the whole situation, how I'm upset with Parvati for being upset that she wasn't chosen. But Phaedra actually chose CT, which I thought was smart, because it's not a housewife. If she chose another, or another Bravo person. So I just thought it was brilliant on Phaedra's part. Still one of the 7, but not looking like she's part of a clique. But then CT is trying to decide who he's going to give the fire to save, and he's debating between John and Trishelle, both on the Faithful 5. CT. So he clearly did not embrace that whole conversation where it said all 7 of us have to vote together. I mean, as soon as one of them gets fired, they're going to save Peter.
Pull yourself together.
After CT chooses John, we see Trishelle pouting. She pouts every single week. She's always convinced. She's very paranoid. I don't think she's cut out for this game. She's irrationally and unreasonably paranoid. I mean, the further you go in the game, the more likely. But right at the beginning, I need a shield. I'm going to be voted out. I'm like, why do you makes you think you're going to be voted out? I haven't heard one thing about you being voted out. What are you talking about? So she, of course, in the talking head before the challenge even began, was like, oh, I'm so nervous. Oh, I can't even focus here. And my anxiety is so high. And I need to get... Just a game. Your overreacting is starting to annoy me. So CT ends up choosing John. She's all emotional. In the talking head, she's all sad and worked up. CT said, I think he actually said it out loud while he was there. I don't know. I'm trying to decide between friendship and gameplay. So he said that out loud. And then he's like, I got to go. It's a game. I got to go with the game. And he gives it to John. So he came out and let Trishelle know. It's nothing personal. This is part of my game, not part of our friendship. But she took it personally as part of their friendship. John, of course, chooses Peter. The very last person that gets saved. Peter cannot be killed this evening now. And Peter appeared really relieved to the point that Sandra was watching him going, he might be a faithful. Maybe he's not the traitor because of the way he was reacting. Well, he was reacting like, she's like, he wasn't very comfortable and laid back and all that. But if I were a traitor, I would act that way, like I was nervous too. So that's why I don't understand this. Like, aren't traitors supposed to act like faithfuls? I don't know. Some people don't get the memo. Dan never got the memo. Never acted like a faithful at all. Phaedra, she got the memo and memorized it. Can recite it forwards and backwards. She is blending in. The only heat she has on her is what Dan did, throwing her under the bus right as he was exiting the game. And even at that, it's hard to tell how much people are taking it seriously. It seems like Trishelle might be the only one who is.
God, I hope so.
So there's 5 people left who can be killed that evening. One of them's Parvati. She's a traitor, so obviously she's out. So there's only 4 left that they can choose from who are not saved from the murder this evening. And they are Trishelle, Bergie, MJ, and Kate. So they all have a 25% chance of being killed that evening. MJ, not happy. Trishelle, not happy. Trishelle has an emotional reaction with CT back in the castle. She can't believe it. They've been friends for so long. Why would you do this? You're not being faithful to me. She admits she's caught up in her emotions, but then she continues to be caught up in her emotions. And so that didn't go well. MJ comes back and she says, I'm just hurt. Well, you know, imagine what it feels like. Everybody's picking somebody. I was nobody's first choice. I get that. Kate, she just got to the game, so it makes sense that people aren't going to save her because they don't know her as well. But Bergie wasn't picked either. He doesn't seem to care. He's all right. Come see, come saw. I'll be here tomorrow. And if I'm not, okay. So at the turret that evening, they're like, this is crazy. This isn't going as planned. Everything looked great to get rid of Peter. Now he's still here. There not only wasn't a vote for banishment, but we can't kill him either because now he has immunity. What should we do? We have 4 people to pick from. So they talked through the 4 people. But before they did, Phaedra gives some advice to Parvati. It does not appear as if Parvati's taking it that well. But then Parvati always has this face of, and she always looks suspicious, and her eyes are always squinted. And basically, Phaedra said, you look like an ice queen, and you're coming in just being aggressive and shooting things out and not being warm and that. And she's like, well, what should I do? What are you talking about? She seems very offended by what Phaedra is saying. But, I mean, if she just paid attention, Phaedra tried to give Dan advice, too. He didn't listen, and he's gone. So now she's trying to give Parvati advice. We'll see if she listens or doesn't.
But you gotta stop acting like an ice princess. You gotta stop doing that.
Like an ice princess?
Yes!
I don't know why she can't figure that out. But maybe because she's just convinced she's getting voted out anyway, that she doesn't really care. And maybe this was Phaedra's way of saying, don't lay down and die. Be nice, befriend people. Be social, friendly, warm. I just don't think she is that person. So I think it might be difficult for her to do that because that would be more acting. And I just found it funny that as Phaedra's trying to tell her to stop being an ice queen and she's very confused by it. And she's like, don't be so hard. Don't be an ice queen. She has that same hard ice queenie look in confusion. Like she should have just said that right there. What you're doing right now. Stop doing that. But she didn't point it out.
You're either an Iron Maiden or an Ice Princess. No, but you're gonna have to just be more lovable.
Okay.
Yeah.
I won't.
Soften your heart. Yeah.
The atmosphere in the turret has intensified.
So the 2 of them talk through the 4 people who they can banish. They have MJ. They said, MJ, nobody's ever really going to put her up for banishment. She's not on anyone's radar, so she's not going to be a good shield for them where they can focus people towards her because nobody expects her to be a traitor. So it might be a good person just to get out because you want somebody who's kind of on the hot seat that you can point to and say, vote for this person, and nobody's going to vote for MJ. So that's an argument there, which makes sense. There's Bergie, and all they said is Bergie's Peter's yes man. That's all he is in the game. And apparently a really nice guy. Phaedra points out that Trishelle is part of Peter's club. Oh no, Peter's pals. Remind me of Peter Pan. Peter's pals. And so that's a good reason to get rid of her. Get somebody out from that group. And finally, Kate. They said nobody's suspecting Kate. There's really not a reason to get rid of her. And because she's so under the radar and nobody assumes that she's a traitor, they think that if the opportunity comes up that they get to bring a 3rd person in, that she would be a great person to recruit as a traitor. And Kate would 100% accept it. So in the end, the decision is made, and Parvati says, this decision might just end up putting a bigger target on my back. Can't get much bigger than she has, so she might as well go out swinging. I interpret that as meaning I think they're going after Trishelle. And I hope they do, because Trishelle is on Phaedra's tail, even though the 2 of them don't know that right now. That's my hope for next week. Make the faithful 5 a faithful 4, and to get the talk about Phaedra out of everybody's mouth. But hopefully they just forget about it and follow Peter, who just wants to get Parvati. And at that point, I would imagine if he did, that Phaedra gets to pick another traitor. I wonder who she would pick. Would she pick Bergie? I don't know if that would be smart. I don't think Bergie can pretend that well and act that well and hide that he's a traitor. I think Kate would be a smart one to get. I don't know. But that's all we have for this episode. Ending again with me wanting to watch the next one and wishing that I was just binging this and not having to wait another week to watch it again. Why is not everybody watching my reviews of this on the channel? I don't know. If I had any control over the algorithm, I'd do something about it, but it's just not getting out to Traitor watchers. I think I'm pigeonholed into 30 to 60-year-old women who like Sister Wives, which is fine because I do too. But it would be nice if somebody could just Google Traitors, not Google, but put it in the search of YouTube and my video would pop up. I have so many issues with YouTube. One of these days I'm going to make a list of all the problems and issues with YouTube so you all understand where I'm coming from when it comes to providing this material. Okay, I will see you back for a review of episode 8 next week. Have a great week.